I am Luna, a 30-year-old Chinese woman who was adopted from mainland China when I was a baby and grew up in the UK. I grew curious about my roots and if I had any family out there, so I took a 23andMe test. Through this test, I found 4 full sisters. I'm the oldest. My sisters are ages 29, 28, 24, and 20 years. The 3 middle sisters are in America, and the youngest is in Germany. We had kept in contact via the internet and had even met in person twice before the global issue started. I have 2 brothers I grew up with who are my parents' biological sons, and as far as I'm concerned, they and my parents are my true family. However, I have grown close to my biological sisters as we understand each other a lot. My parents know of my birth story. I was found in an alleyway in a box. My sisters were found relatively the same way, though they were left outside of buildings in public areas. So, I'm a bit more bitter than they are about how we were abandoned, as I was left out of the way where I could have been missed. We recently got contacted by a new family member found by the test, an 18-year-old full brother who lives in France with our bio parents. They moved there later in life. My biological sisters are excited by this and eager to meet him. They want the 5 of us to fly out together and meet our brother and family. I've told them I wouldn't stop them, but I have no interest in meeting the couple who kept trying to have a boy and abandoned 5 daughters we know of, reminding them that there could be more we don't know about who haven't used 23andMe. They feel I'm being unreasonable in this, and I should at least go to meet our brother. I'm fine meeting him one day, but not with them there. He and I have been exchanging emails for now. I know they want the 5 of us to go out as a united front in this, and my not wanting to go is disheartening for them. But I honestly feel bitter about this whole situation. It's a very personal trauma for me, not the idiot. It is especially worse for me as the oldest, and was the closest to not having a life at all because of their abandonment. I hope you and your brother form as strong a bond as you and your sisters have. It isn't his fault your parents did this, and I hope they all come to understand your feelings and stop pushing. It's a personal decision, not a group one. Consider discussing this with them now about boundaries after they meet. Do you want to hear about the meeting? Do you want them to invite you to do things with them in the future if the parents are involved? This sounds like they abandoned you all due to the one-child policy, aiming for a son to continue the family name and the possibilities for what could happen if that was violated. But this is still horrible. There's no excuse for conceiving and abandoning 5 children. If you meet your brother, you deserve to meet him on your terms. Try writing down how you feel, and then explaining it to your sisters. I'm sorry you have this trauma. Maybe I'm just a bitter person, but if I were you, I would go just to confront them in person and let them know that as far as I knew, they had no daughters, and they meant absolutely nothing to me. Update. Am I the idiot for telling my biological sisters that I don't want to meet our bio parents after some pushing for my bio sisters over getting in contact with our bio parents? I didn't want to fly out to meet them with my sisters, but they still wanted to talk to me. So I finally consented to have a Zoom call with our bio parents, as that was the most I could handle. I'll be honest, it was like a punch in the gut. I looked so much like our bio mother that it was a little startling. So, I found some answers to some important questions. Firstly, why were we abandoned? As many of you can guess, it's due to the one-child policy. They wanted a son, but there was additional internal pressure to this. My paternal grandparents had told them if they kept a daughter, they would be cut off and not have a penny of the family's money. It's why I was abandoned so differently from my sisters. It was my paternal grandmother who took me out to be abandoned. My bio parents always assumed I had died because of how she left me, so they took over the abandonment of my sisters, which is why they were left in better places. Were there any other children? Yes, 1. A boy who would be 22 right now. Had everything gone to plan, they were going to keep him. But apparently something was wrong with him. I don't know what, and they didn't expand on that. But apparently my paternal grandfather forced them to give him up as he was ashamed. Why did they move to France after our youngest brother was born? They finally gained financial independence from my paternal grandparents and were able to move. They were the ones who asked their son to take the test, hoping to find other children. Where does this leave us? They were so happy to talk to me and kept going on about how they now had most of their children back and could have it all. I cut them off there and told them they didn't have us back. I expressed sympathy for what they had been put through by my paternal grandparents, but pointed out they chose money over me and all of us, and how they could have chosen to keep me or any of the others and make their way in life. But they hadn't. I thanked them for the call, but told them I had a family already, and had no further interest in speaking with them. I continued to be in contact with my bio brother, but this was all they'd get. They tried to beg me to stay on the call, but I left, and I admit I had a bit of a sob afterward. My adoptive brothers ended up taking me out to drink afterward, and the three of us got hammered while I vented and cried some more. But it helped me work through a lot of things. So thanks, everyone. I just figured you all deserved an update. I'm sorry your suspicions were confirmed. Your grandparents are horrible, evil people who deserve to rot in hell. On the other hand, I'm glad you have your real family to support you. As for your other siblings, you decide whether or not you want to have a relationship with them. Good luck with everything. Bio parents are evil too. They kept choosing to have children they abandoned till they got the right one. They can feel bad all they want. Cultural pressure, I sympathize. But they did this with all the daughters and one son who wasn't right. OP, if you choose not to be involved with your biological parents, then I feel it's for the best because at the end of the day, they did choose money over you, and what would have happened if you were never found? You are so strong, and you handled this well. You now have a true family that loves you and has the best support. Hugs and take care. About a month ago, my brother, 34, sent out a group text to me and a group of his friends trying to plan a day for us to all go over to his house for a day of yard games, grilling, and drinking. After working out scheduling conflicts, we landed on this coming Saturday, tomorrow. We've been bantering back and forth about this day in the group chat for the past month, and all of us are looking forward to it. My brother's wife and toddler son were supposed to be spending the day at her mom's place, but I guess those plans fell through. They'll be at the house. But my brother said that doesn't change our plans. However, my sister-in-law reached out to my wife and asked if she wanted to come over and bring our toddler without talking to me about it. My wife agreed. When she told me she plans on going over there too, I started asking questions instead of being excited about it. I've always planned on crashing there, so I said we'd have to take 2 cars, and it's an hour's drive, and gas is expensive. She said they could stay there too, but we have a dog, and my sister-in-law is allergic, so bringing him is not an option. I also told her that we had been planning this day as a guy's day for a month, and I've been looking forward to a day where I'm only responsible for myself and utterly devoid of parental duties. She said that the guys could still have their fun, and she would just hang out with her sister-in-law. I said that if they came with me, there was a very real and highly probable situation where I would be pulled into some form of parental duties during the day, and I was looking forward to a day without that. For context, I haven't had a day like this since last summer. My wife took a 5-day trip with a couple of friends a few months ago while I was at home, so this would be the first night I've spent away from my son in almost a year. Enjoying the story so far? Show your support by liking and subscribing to our channel. Now let's dive back into the story. My wife got upset that I was subtly hinting that I didn't want them to come. She asked me if I wanted them there, and I said couldn't it stop you from accepting my sister-in-law's invitation and going over there. But I am going into this day with the expectation that I'll be free from all parental duties, and that this is a day off for me. If you go over there, I want you to agree that you'll be responsible for all kid duties. She did not like that answer. She said I'm still a dad, and just because I want to have fun with the boys doesn't remove my responsibilities as a husband and a father. She said it's unreasonable to expect her to take 100% responsibility for our son when both of us are present in the same place. I told her that the simple solution to that problem was for them to stay home, as we had always planned. As of last night, my wife had not made a final decision on what she was going to do tomorrow. I know I might have come off a bit harsh, but I wanted to clarify what I expect tomorrow to be, whether they come over or not. Not the idiot. She got to take a 5-day vacation. And you can't take one. You're not in the wrong at all. Why can't your sister-in-law go to your house instead? You're 100% not in the wrong. If she could take a 5-day vacation, there's no reason she can't give you one freaking day. You are the idiot. The fact is, her sister-in-law invited her because she wanted the company. Plans have changed slightly, and you sound quite stubborn about it. It would be interesting if your wife chose not to go and called your sister-in-law to explain exactly why. Also, the car issue. It's a one-off plan. Gas is expensive. That sounds like a ridiculous excuse, to be honest. Not the idiot. Your wife had 5 days alone with friends thousands of miles away and was free from childcare those 5 days. You're entitled to a break now and then, just like she is. If my husband told me that his sister-in-law screwed up the guy's time plan by inviting me, I'd understand and bow out. No big deal at all. Disagree? You are the idiot. It isn't your house to dictate who gets an invitation, and you are a parent 24/7. So sorry this one day may not go as planned. You could just be happy the cousins get to spend some time together, and that your wife and sister-in-law get along so well. Oh no, your family wants to spend time together. How horrid your life must be. I, 19 female, am pregnant with my ex's, 22 male baby. We are on good terms, and when the baby's born, we will have 50-50 custody. 2 weeks ago, I moved into my sister's, 35, and brother-in-law's, 37 house. My sister and brother-in-law practically begged me to move in with them because they wanted to experience being pregnant. My sister is infertile. Living with my sister and brother-in-law has been very stressful. They're always on top of me about my eating habits and are always around me, especially my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law insists that I think of him as the baby's father. It's annoying because when my baby's actual father's around, he feels the need to always one-up him. For example, one time when one of my sister's friends came over, he talked about the baby as if it was his. Yesterday, my other sister was hosting a family dinner at her house, and my brother-in-law came while I was on the couch. He came in front of me and started talking to my baby and referring to himself as daddy. It was highly embarrassing because everyone was looking, and I was furious. I told him to get up and stop touching me. My brother-in-law seemed very embarrassed, and my sister was angry. They both left after that. I went with my brother to get my clothes and everything from the house. I got a thread of texts from my sister calling me an ungrateful witch and telling me how I embarrassed her and my brother-in-law. So I asked some friends and they told me I was in the wrong because my sister let me stay at her house rent-free, and some say I'm not. I honestly don't know, and I need unbiased answers. I sometimes do say things unfiltered when I feel strong emotions, so this may be one of those situations. Not the idiot, but they wanted to experience being pregnant? Why that alone did not send up every red flag from here to North Korea for you, I don't know. But it's obvious to anyone not fixated on the free rent part of this, that your sister and brother-in-law believe you're carrying this baby for them. So if that is not the case, continue to stay out and keep clear of them, and get a good lawyer and emergency services on speed dial just in case they try to force the issue. Did you let them believe that they were going to adopt the baby? Because it sounds like they think of you as their incubator. Don't ever stay with them again. Your brother-in-law is way out of line. It could be their infertility issues, or he could just be a weirdo. Either way, it would be a big no for me. By the way, stop taking advice from your friends who see nothing weird in this situation. They're clueless. I feel like that was their direction, like they were setting the stage for a baby grab. One, they'd let her stay with them rent-free, and she can't even afford rent. Two, they'd insist on buying things for the baby, and it'd be, we provided everything for the baby. Three, they'd help with overnights and feedings, and it'd be, we do everything for the baby. This is not their baby. Make sure they and everyone else in your family know that. I would make sure your entire family knows that this is your baby and will not be given to them. Your baby's father is in the picture. Do you realize that they will try to take that baby from you? You might need to set something up at the hospital so they can't try and do it. They might call CPS on you to get the kid. Move out and go low contact. At my university, students whose parents make under $65K go to school completely free, and students whose parents make between $65K and about $200K are on financial aid. Above around $200K, the school considers parents able to pay and expects them to do so, and a student can't get financial aid. So unless you were an emancipated minor or over 26, with no exceptions, your financial aid is dependent on parental income because schools expect your parents to pay if they can. My parents made well over the cutoff, but they refused to pay for my college for no reason, meaning I wouldn't be able to attend college because they make too much money for me to get financial aid, but refused to pay. They essentially tried to screw me out of an education. However, I met a guy, 22, who became my boyfriend, and his parents paid for my entire college. He's an only child, and his mom always wanted a daughter, and they adopted me into their family. She owns a makeup brand and has helped me get prestigious internships. I'm staying with him and his family all summer. They invited me to accompany them where they're staying for the summer, so I am, and I have no plans to go home and see my parents. My parents demanded to know where I was. I explained that I was with my boyfriend and his parents. Then they demanded to know why I wasn't coming home. I said I decided to spend some time with the people who care about me and support me. They said I'm their daughter, and I should be at home with our family. I said I'm already with family and don't owe them anything. It's not like they should care about me or what I'm doing. They can keep the same energy they've always had because I don't need them. They're upset that I don't wish to see them. I don't see any reason why I should visit. I'm with my boyfriend and his family, and I have no reason to see them. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. If your parents think you should be on your own, they have to let you be on your own. If you found a new family who's willing to support you financially, then you did pretty well on your own, and they can shut up about it because they wanted you to be on your own for college. Your story is why I think colleges should be free for everyone. Admissions should be equitable but tuition free. I don't want little queer kids having to stay in the closet, or parents to force religion or marriage in exchange for money for education. I agree. I feel the same way about things like school lunches. Unfortunately, too many people won't feed their kids if they have the money because they're lazy, or won't fill out forms because of pride. Your parents wanted a free nanny and housekeeper for when they're old. That was the role and future they had planned for you. Never go back. I'm glad you found a family who loves you. It's not their responsibility to pay for your university, as you are an adult. For this same reason, you can spend the summer and the rest of your life without ever seeing your parents if you want. However, I wouldn't advise holding a grudge against them, as making $200K doesn't necessarily mean they're super well off to afford your studies, especially if you're from the US. Agree, it's not inherently evil to not pay for college, and being age 21, they aren't going to fail at life if they don't go to college immediately either. This reads like a kid who was given everything they wanted growing up and feels entitled to free college. Let's conclude our story. In the heart of a bustling city, amidst the cacophony of life's symphony, there stood an old bookstore, weathered by time yet brimming with tales untold. Its shelves were adorned with volumes that whispered secrets of eras gone by, inviting wanderers to embark on journeys through the corridors of imagination.
Alright, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick? Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the ninth grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit any time, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, "I'm very sorry." Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, "Get his boss here immediately." It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. "What is that idiot doing?" "Alright, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next." Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. "If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you." I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. "Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize." Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. "What kind of training are you giving your subordinates?" Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed, I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry." Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." "Mike, what have you done?" Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that? Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part." I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.